thank you for having me today. Can everybody hear? Yeah?
Just get a little bit closer, because sometimes you get feedback when you're
Fix it for some.
a little bit.
For the record, I am hearing impaired, and I know what it's like not to be able to hear. So if you cannot hear me, interrupt me, please, and let me know, because I want everybody to be able to hear. Okay? All right. So I've only been the county chair at Greene County since January. In my short time as county chair, I have visited my county a lot, just listening and talking to people. And I mean, if we're driving around the county and I see a house with an American flag and a motorcycle in the driveway, I'll like slam on the brakes, hit reverse, I gotta see who lives here. And so I've visited a lot of people and talked to them. And one thing I have found out is that a lot of really intelligent, educated people, they're not real clear on, first of all, what the Republican Party is. Even the ones who always vote Republican, they don't understand what is the party. And also, they're unclear about some of the basic electoral processes. And I think that we need to stop assuming that everybody in the room knows everything they need to know. So what I'm going to start off first is to tell you a little bit about some basics about elections. And for many of you, it will be a basic review. It's stuff you already know. But like I said, there are educated people who do follow politics who surprise me with sometimes they don't know some basic things. So at this time, I'd like to ask you all a question. What is a Republican? What are some things that we stand for? Raise your hand if you can name one thing that we stand for.
Pro-life.
We're pro-life, yeah, what else?
Limited government.
Limited government, yeah.
Lower taxes.
Lower taxes? I heard something else.
Faith in God Almighty.
Faith in God Almighty, what else?
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech.
Strong national defense.
Strong national defense.
Pro-gun.
Pro-gun, yes. Like that. My favorite. So now my second question is, how do you know that that is what we stand for? Who told you this?
The platform.
Oh, yeah. Yes, this is the platform of the Republican Party of Arkansas. This is what we stand for. And a lot of people actually, they don't even know we have a platform. Even people who come to file to run for office, we're like, have you read the platform? Like, what platform? So yes, this is how we know what a Republican is. The Republican Party is not just its politicians. The politicians represent us, but they are not the party. This right here is the party, and it's made up of us, you and I, who helped make this platform. All right, this is actually a good platform. There's nothing in it I disagree with. It is a conservative platform, and it conforms to the United States Constitution. When a candidate files to run for office as a Republican, he is saying that he agrees with the Republican platform. However, many Republican politicians do not stay faithful to this platform for various reasons. One reason might be because they are actually Democrats running in a part of the state where a Democrat cannot get elected. And so when they file to run as a Republican, they're simply lying and perpetrating fraud on the people. Other candidates just don't really care about the platform. They've already made up their mind that they're going to vote how they want to vote on a case-by-case basis, even though the people elected them to vote according to the Republican platform. So all of their votes should conform to our platform. And still others give in to the culture of politics. They start off meaning well, but then the wheeling and the dealing starts. I'll vote for your bill if you vote for mine. Maybe they don't want to upset their big money donors. Maybe they don't want to get in trouble with the liberal news media. We currently live in a political atmosphere where if an Arkansas Republican politician votes with our platform 70% of the time, we shower them with awards for conservatism. I'm wondering, what about the other 30%? I'd like for them to vote with our platform 100% of the time. So where does this disconnect come between our platform, which is conservative, and our Republican politicians come from? I've had discussions with several Republican voters who will not identify as Republicans. even though they do agree with everything in our platform. These voters want nothing to do with the Republican Party. And when I ask them why, it's because when they step into the voting booth during a general election and they look at their choices of Democrat and Republican candidates, they see little to no difference between the Republican candidate and the Democrat candidate. They see a uniparty, that's their words. They see that both parties are taking the country in the same wrong direction. It's just that Republicans are taking us there a little slower. But that is not the fault of the Republican platform. This is a good conservative platform. The problem is that our Republican elected officials do not always adhere to our good conservative platform or the Constitution of the United States. How can we change this? What do you do when a person is looking at his ballot and the only choice is between a Democrat and a Democrat light with an R behind his name? Okay, let's rewind it a bit. Let's go back a few months before the general election. There's an election process that occurs several months before the general election that determines who will be the Republican on the ballot. Who can tell me to what I'm referring? The primaries. A good group of people here. A political primary is an election by the political parties to nominate their candidates for the general election ballot. Okay, you can pass those out now. I made up a fictitious primary ballot for you to look at. The primary election that happens months before the general election generally has low turnout. Many voters don't even know it's happening or what it's for. However, the primary election can be more important than the general election. When you go to vote in a primary election, you will ask for a Republican or a Democrat ballot. You can only ask for one or the other. Your Republican ballot will have only Republicans from which to choose. The Republican who wins the primary vote will be placed on the general election ballot in November to run against the Democrat candidate. Okay, on your fictitious ballot, look at the race for state representative. In this race, Blanche is the incumbent, which means she currently holds this office and is running for re-election. Sophia is the challenger. Blanche is well known for having a dismal voting record. Her votes conform to the Republican platform only about 50 to 60% of the time. Her challenger, Sophia, has criticized her voting record and vows that if she were elected, she would stick to the Republican platform. Sophia has proven her commitment to the Republican platform while serving in local offices. Now, who do we want to vote for in this situation? Sophia. Of course. With Blanche's terrible voting record, this race should be a slam dunk for Sophia. But wait, Arkansas has open primaries. This means that a bunch of Democrat voters also asked for a Republican ballot. And they've been instructed by their leadership to vote for Blanche. Because, of course, they don't want a conservative who follows the Republican platform to hold any office. And so Blanche will win this fictitious race. And we fast forward back to our general election ballot in November, where the annoyed conservative voter is looking at a Democrat ballot, a Democrat candidate, and a Democrat light candidate with an R behind her name, Blanche. And he's disgusted and wants nothing to do with the Republican Party. One way to stop this cycle is to change our open primaries to closed primaries.
Yes.
A closed primary is one in which only registered members of a particular political party can vote. So, for example, only voters who are registered Republicans may ask for a Republican primary ballot. This change would help prevent Democrats from crossing over and choosing our candidates for us. It would also help bring back conservatives into our party. We have alienated them by allowing these crossover voters to choose our candidates. Now, the Democrats, the Libertarians, and the Independent voters will get a chance to choose who they like at the general election. They will vote for the Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, or Independent candidates at that time. But party primaries should be just that, a time for a party to choose who will represent them, The time for Republicans to choose the candidate who will vote according to this platform. Okay, and now I will address a related issue, municipal elections. I'm gonna get a drink of water real quick.
Can I make a quick comment while you're doing that?
Sure.
I just happened to read an article today, and it adds flavor to what you said is, talks about, a large segment of voters choosing not to vote in primaries. Among Republicans, far too many opt to remain on the sidelines, throwing stones and complaining rather than effect change. The typical turnout for a primary is around 30% for Republican voters. The result of this indifference since 1962, that's 30 election cycles, the average re-election rate per cycle for incumbents has been nearly 94%. So that's just kind of.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna talk about partisan municipal elections. The word partisan has taken on a very negative connotation in the national politics, especially in the news media. They think partisanship is a dirty word. But being partisan simply means that you belong to a political party and you subscribe to the ideals in our platform. Okay, when a candidate has an R or a D behind his name, it gives you a general indication of what they believe. But many local governments do not have partisan elections. They have so-called nonpartisan elections. Let me tell you what happened in Paragould. We had partisan elections until 2015. When our Democrat mayor and our Democrat-run city council saw the red wave sweeping across the state of Arkansas, they very quietly voted in one of their city council meetings to fundamentally change our partisan elections to so-called nonpartisan. So everybody would be required to run as an independent. Even if you wanted to put an R behind your name on the ballot, you would not be able to. So imagine our surprise when we walked into the voting booth and saw a bunch of I's behind everyone's name, and we were confused. We're like, where's the Republicans? Who do I vote for? And we didn't like that. So the first thing we did was to go to our city council and try to make a case for them to reverse it. Of course they wouldn't. In fact, they wouldn't even listen to us. And that was our previous chairman, John Williams, did that, and he filed a lawsuit against our city council for them disallowing his freedom of speech, and they ended up settling out of court. Has anybody tried around here to ask their city council, Benton or Bryant, to change to partisan? That would be the easiest thing to do. If you could just get them to change, that would be great. That would save you a lot of time and trouble. So if you want to get your reasons together, get a whole bunch of people to go to the city council meeting and say, we would like you to consider this, go ahead and try it. I don't know who makes up your city council, so I don't know how successful that will be. Okay, so that didn't work. So the next thing we did was we got a lawyer who drew up an amendment to the municipal code and a petition for people to sign. And we got people in Paragould to sign this petition saying that they wanted to have partisan elections be on the ballot for everybody to vote for. I tell you, one of the most interesting people to talk to were actually the independent voters. I would ask them, would you like to sign this petition? And I would tell them what it's about. And they say, oh no, I like it the way it is because I don't believe in political parties. I want everybody to run as an independent. And I would explain to them, you don't understand. The people on this ballot do belong to political parties. There are Democrats and Republicans. They're not allowed to say it. And the independent voter would go, what? They're not allowed to say it? I was like, no, they're not allowed to. And they would sign the petition. Because if they're going to vote for an independent candidate, they want to vote for an independent candidate. They don't want to vote for a Democrat with an I behind his name or a Republican with an I behind his name. So even they want transparency in government. Okay, so we got enough people to sign the petition, and it varies. You'll have to ask your county clerk how many signatures you want. It's like a percentage of how many people voted in the last election, or something like that. We were actually given 2 sets of numbers, so we went with a higher set of numbers to make sure we got enough signatures. Okay, So once we got that on the ballot, we started running ads. And we probably spent $10,000 to $15,000. We got yard signs, we got billboards, TV ads, radio ads, newspaper ads, and a YouTube ad. Thank you, Allison Gray, for helping us set up the YouTube ad because I am technologically illiterate. So that cost us some money. Now you'll want to have people write into the newspapers in support of your campaign. And I've got this packet here. It's back there. I've got all the opposition's flyers and newspaper editorials in this packet that I'll leave with you, just so you know what to expect from them and be able to prepare your rebuttal. When you name your amendment, our amendment was named the Paragould Partisan Election Amendment. Do not name your amendment that. I mean, don't name it the Benton Partisan Election Amendment. First of all, nobody has a clue what that means. Nobody. You will spend, we sat, for 2 weeks, we stood outside the early voting center and explained it again and again and again and again. What is a partisan election? What does this mean? Why is it this way? Why is partisanship not bad? And I've had Republican voters come up and say, you know, this sounds like something we're supposed to vote against. And I'm like, no, you don't. You want to vote for it. You want to check the mark for. And also, like I said, you want to stay away from terms that have a negative connotation, like the word partisan. And it was really hard to say. It was almost a tongue twister. But I wasn't in the committee when they named it. So that happened. And it's an accurate description of the amendment, so that they weren't wrong. It was very hard to market. Okay, so cities use these nonpartisan elections to hide their party affiliation. It's not a very transparent way. Let's see, some of the arguments that they came up with are you saying that we should vote for the person with the right letter behind their name instead of the most qualified candidate? And I would answer something like, the candidate who does not subscribe to conservative fiscal policy is automatically not qualified to decide how to spend my tax dollars. I do not want a fiscal liberal on city council just because he's had the job for a while and has experience. That's not what makes him qualified. Okay, another argument was, there's no Republican or Democrat potholes. There's no Republican or Democrat garbage collectors. It doesn't matter. We don't have partisan issues. That's baloney, and they know it. First of all, just taxes in general. Every 6 months, our mayor tries to raise taxes, and we have to go down to City Hall and say, don't raise our taxes. That's partisanship right there. And Paragould actually has a massive, just gargantuan plan in the works. It's called Discover Paragould 2042. It's a gargantuan project that they're working on. 90% of Paragould has no idea this is in the works. It's basically the gentrification of Paragould. They want to turn Paragould, all of northeast Arkansas, into northwest Arkansas. And one of the business owners described it as government regulations on steroids, and it really is. They're going to tell every business when to build, how to build, where to build, green space this, green that, green whatever, parks here, parks there, parks everywhere, bicycle trails here, there, everywhere, blah, blah, blah. Everyone has to be a member of our homeowner association. It's going to be a very highly planned city if they get this through. That's partisan. If you want lower taxes and less government, that ain't it. And you're all into the library thing. That's a local issue. It's partisan. And by the way, I applaud your efforts to get the pornography out of the children's section. I don't know why it's so hard to understand. That shouldn't be there. I actually haven't checked the Greene County Library. I follow their Facebook page, and they don't have drag queen story hour or anything like that. But I haven't looked in their children's section yet. All right, what's up?
I'm sure they have.
You should go
Same book.
Don't tell me. Oh, also, if you're familiar with the free little libraries, those little libraries you see at the parks, That's like a national thing, and their specific purpose is to put the LGBTQ books in there that the schools are no longer allowed to carry. So you need to check on that. And actually, I have gotten permission to sponsor my own free little library in the park closest to my house, because I figured if I'm the sponsor, I pay for it, I go by once a week, I get to decide which books to take out.
Yeah.
So if you would like to sponsor a free little library, then that'll keep someone else from doing it and stocking it with LGBTQ books. I haven't got it put in yet, I just got permission. Alrighty. That's about it for that. Alright, so now is the time for Republicans to stick together and fight for our cities, our counties, our state, and our country. We cannot afford to have conservative voters sit on the sidelines and refuse to join the party and form a unified front. We cannot afford to have local governments hide behind nonpartisan elections. And I didn't include judicial elections, but that also, the same deal. Okay, the other side is mutilating their own children and arresting their political opponents. How much worse does it have to get before we say enough? So round up those conservatives, explain to them that the politicians are not the party. This is the party. All of you sitting here are the party. Just because they're in the party doesn't mean that they have to be in agreement with the rhinos. Get them to register as Republicans. Close the primaries and elect the candidates we can be proud of. We need to stand together and defeat the opponents of our Constitution. Thank you, and now I will take questions. Any questions about anything?
Now maybe, you may not be the one to ever answer this, but when we were having this fight earlier this year, there was some talk about when the Secretary of State updated some software, a lot of our, whether we're Republican or Democrat, we're actually in their database as an other, I think, maybe. So is that something that we as a group should, as to go in and make sure that there's an R by our name instead of, and will they change that readily if we ask? Because my card still says Republican in my wallet, but if you look online, it says.
Right, yeah, so you should go to the Secretary of
You just
State's
call.
website, the voter view, and find out if you, because they did automatically switch everyone over to optional. So if you have not changed that over in the last 10 years or whatever, you're registered as an optional. And that's one of the reasons they say we can't have closed primaries, because everyone's registered optional. No one's gonna change it until they have to. They just, I mean, we're lazy people. I'm lazy. I haven't changed mine, and I'm the chairman of our committee. Because what difference does it make? And I should go down and do it. But a couple weeks ago, I went through every member of my committee, and I looked them up to see if they were registered Republicans. And they did have a drive last year to get changed over. So most of them had changed to Republican. And then I sent an email out to everyone who was still optional, and I found one registered Democrat. I don't know what to do with her yet.
There's a removal process.
Yeah, and she's listed as a hard Democrat in some of our analytics. So I guess I need to talk to her. Find out what's going on there.
It takes 2 minutes to change it over here at the office, literally.
They'll do it on the phone.
Yeah, you can
Will
call.
they do it on the phone?
Yeah.
They did ours.
Okay, see, I didn't know that.
Something right next door.
I thought you had to fill out the form.
Well,
Oh, I don't know.
probably best to do that.
Okay, so you all need to get changed over. The more we get changed over, the easier it will be to counter their argument that everybody is an optional. But, I just think we just need to go ahead and close the primaries and publicize, hey, they're closed now, get changed over. And I think people will be more likely to change over because they'll have to.
One other bullet on that too, when I went in there, they tried to talk me out of it, because they said in Arkansas, you don't need to declare, and I said, well, I want to declare, and they literally went back and forth for a little bit, but I'm like, no, I want to declare, and so they finally let me. That was the only reason it took 2 minutes, but.
So I don't think that mic is on, but she said that they tried to talk her out of changing her registration affiliation because you don't have to declare. Well, I don't know what that's about. Just if someone walks in and wants to change it, let them change it.
Well, But that's because we had mostly Democrats running the
Yes.
local
Yeah.
offices.
Yeah, we have a red state, you know, cause we vote for our Republican presidents. But wow, most of the local governments are still very blue. I know Perrin will just, and like, other than city council, we've got Republicans at every level, but like I said, they're not always in line with this. So I don't know what to think of that.